Will Boardman asks, how have you overcome dyslexia throughout your life? Dyslexia, gang. It's a good question. I didn't know I had it. My mom told me that I took she had allowed us to do an experimental way of learning how to read in the 70s when I learned how to read. I don't know the name of it. And she thinks that might have made it worse for me. But I didn't realize it until, I was in my 30s, and somebody had to explain to me there, and there again, or two, and two again. And the way I was able to fix this was I asked people around me to tell me when I mispronounced something and to tell me when I misspelled something. And then I would take the time to write down in a book, there, THEIR, THEY apostrophe RE, THERE. And I would just write it. I would write it and see it and say it out loud. And when I would write it and say it out loud, it would click for me. And now my actual grammar and vocabulary have all skyrocketed since I just started writing and saying things out loud. So for some reason, for me, when I speak something and I type it and I see it, so I'm having all modalities at once, it kind of gets me through it. So that it's as simple as that. And then I'm not embarrassed about the fact that I mispronounce names, because sometimes when I get it right, I can say polyhopatia over and over again, and it just clicks for me. It just takes a little more time and thoughtfulness. And there's also a piece of software called Hemingway app and another one called Grammarly. And they were unlocks for me, because when I started running things through grammar or text to speech, this was actually a key for me. I started using text to speech like decades ago, and I would pay for like Dragon software when it was really expensive. It was like desktop software. Now it's built into, every operating system because of accessibility. And if you turn on accessibility on your phone, you can get a little overlay that will let you highlight any text and turn it into speech. When you hear something as a dyslexic person that you misspelled, it's clear as day. I don't know if every dyslexic person is like that, but I know I am. When I read it, it makes sense to me, but then I hear it, I'm like, oh, that's wrong. And so then I was like, okay, so from now on, when I wrote the book, I would literally take out a microphone and I would speak the chapter, and then I would go for a walk and I would listen to it. And if it didn't sound right to me, I would think about another way to say it. That was a way for me to workshop to be a more compelling writer, but it was also a way for me to get through the dyslexia stuff. So I never went to any kind of dyslexia training or anything, but I think you can make up for it with other aspects, which is if you're a good writer, if you have a great vocabulary, if you're knowledgeable, if you're well-spoken, if you don't and ah, everybody's got their particular, challenges. And so some people say, or they and ah. I don't do that anymore. So, and my vocabulary's gotten better and better, and I'm funny. I can make a quick joke. I can think on the fly. So you can make up for whatever your weakness is. I think you just work on the other things, right? So like if you're just not good at, I don't know, if you're Dennis Rodman and you're just not a good shooter, like become the world's greatest rebounder and be the guy who frustrates the other team's best offensive player, right? You can, Draymond Green, and I'm friendly with Draymond, and I've talked about this very issue with him. Every summer, he gets better at something. I don't know if you saw last year the number of assists he was putting up, but he was had games with double-digit assists all the time. What was Draymond's assists last year or the year before? I mean, he's got to have 5, 6, 7 assists a game, I think. And for his position, I think it would normally be 2 or 3, right? So I was very impressed with his ability to add something new to his game.